Cape Fear premiered on Apple TV on June 5th, 2026, a 10-episode limited series executive produced by Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg, starring Javier Bardem out front as Max Cady with Amy Adams and Patrick Wilson as the married attorneys he's hunting. This show spends 10 hours on a story Scorsese previously told in 128 minutes, and I realized early on that Cape Fear 2026 is not meant to be watched with your eyes. It is meant to be listened to while expanding your farm in Pal World. Cape Fear is second screen slop. I'm the real-life Fake Wizard, and this is a Fake Wizard's review of Cape Fear. If this video brings you any value, hit the subscribe button as we're posting lots of reviews every single week. John D. MacDonald published The Executioners in 1957, which was a story about a lawyer and a convict who comes back to get the lawyer. There was a movie in 1962 called Cape Fear with Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum. Then, Martin Scorsese remade that movie in 1991 with Nick Nolte and Robert De Niro, produced by Steven Spielberg. Fast forward to today. This Cape Fear Apple TV show is a remake of Martin Scorsese's remake of the 1962 adaptation. And in our modern day version, there are liberties taken and structural changes. Because of course there are. Starting with the lawyer role that gets split down the middle. Amy Adams plays Anna Bowden, who defended Max Cady 17 years ago for the crime of murdering his wife and unborn son. Patrick Wilson plays Tom Bowden, who prosecuted him. They married soon after that trial ended. They live in an enormous house in Savannah, and they have two teenagers, Natalie and Zach, who are both very unlikable. When a woman confesses to Cady's crime and takes her own life, Max Cady walks out of prison, a media darling and a talking point about an unjust justice system. Then the show applies a second angle to the conflict. Anna Bowden's current-day employer is an Innocence Project outfit that would love a wrongful conviction success story. Max Cady returns and the Bowden family's lives start falling apart. Does Max have anything to do with it? Or is it just coincidence and karma working itself out? No, it's Max. This is a revenge thriller, and it's not a good one. Now, as we get into the nitty-gritty of this concept on its own is a good one. It, like the source material, is interesting. This 2026 show, however, is a lesson in writer incompetence and failure to understand or comprehend verisimilitude. For instance, and these are simple spoilers that don't matter much, in the last episode, the police arrive at the Bowden house. They tell the family that Max Cady has slipped out of handcuffs. He assaulted a police officer. He's on the loose. They confirm that now they believe everything the Bowdens were saying about Max being a dangerous criminal trying to ruin their lives, and that they also believe Max Cady is out to get them. The police search the house. They search it, don't look up at the roof where Max is standing there menacingly in the rain, and then they leave. The police confirm a murderous criminal who carved up bodies 3-ish episodes ago is on the loose and after them, and then the police leave. Max Cady attacks the family immediately. The police leave because script says so, and script needs the police to leave. That's how poorly written this is. Yeah, see, that right there is a great example of all the major flaws of this show. There is such an emphasis on weakly written plot points, like the cops failing to be believable, that it all causes this show to just drag. Max Cady walks through this show with cheat codes enabled. Locked doors just open for him. The police custody releases him again and again. And the expensive security system the Bowdens installed in episode 4 might as well be a doorbell camera pointed at the lawn. Somehow, he is constantly able to overcome every obstacle thrown at him, and none of it is explained well. And mostly because it would be really hard and the writers would have to try to explain things. Cape Fear 2026 so badly wants to have plot twists that make you gasp like you're an actress in a daytime telenovela, but the explanations to those twists are like sand in your hands, all of which is worsened by the exaggerated and pathetic runtime. Thompson's film in 1962 ran 106 minutes. Scorsese's film in 91 was 128 minutes. This show runs 10 hours. 10 episodes, each being about an hour long. And this show ran weekly over 10 weeks, which means that audiences got snippets of story at a time, each episode ending on a terrible cliffhanger that demanded you come back next week to find out what's really going on. And next week's reveals would undo the previous week's reveals, and that repeated week after week. Look, this show is second screen slop. Second screening is a term coined by Netflix for shows developed for viewers who are not watching their shows, but instead are on their phones while Netflix plays in the back. Cape Fear is not a show you need to watch with your eyes. I started watching this show the same week Pal World 1.0 dropped. I watched Cape Fear mostly while playing Pal World, and at the episode 4-ish point, I realized, oh, wait, this show really isn't meant to be taken seriously and watched on the couch at all. I am missing nothing from this show because its plot is so hollow, and my Pal World base operations are expanding efficiently. Nick Antosca, the showrunner, told The Wrap he wanted the audience's sympathies to shift between Katie and the Bowdens across the season, that sympathy shifts when a protagonist does something compromised that you can weigh against what was done to them. What actually happens here is a bit cruder than that. By episode 3 or 4, you stop caring about the Bowdens because they are exhausting. They're not good people. They're bad guys too, just to a lesser extent. Their children are unlikable. The Innocence Project people are also unlikable. Oh, and their media corrupt. The Juliette Lewis character is confusing and unlikable from start to season finish. The only thing carrying this show at all happens to be the acting, which is phenomenal. I'll give it credit. And in particular, Javier Bardem's villain in Max Cady, he's great. Right up until the very end, where they rush through a terrible finale episode, and Cady turns into a Looney Tunes character. And I don't blame Bardem for that. The writing is so trash. Anna Bowden preaches criminal justice reform from a mansion. Tom Bowden cheats on his wife and microdoses his way through a family crisis for no reason other than they needed something to do with his character for a handful of episodes. Their daughter, Natalie, starts off as the only likable one and then has an identity crisis after her family stops giving her attention. I'm so serious on that. Leading her to easily get gaslit by all of the bad guys into making terrible choices. And Zach Bowden is never believable as anything other than a mentally deranged and dangerous person from start to finish. It's also hardly believable that Patrick Wilson and Amy Adams are the parents of Zach Bowden, as they have a kind of distant fear and a lack of understanding of him the entire show. The writers want you to sympathize with Zach, and I'll be honest with you, I was hoping he'd be one of the casualties by episode 3. Cape Fear sells itself weekly on the questions. What happened 17 years ago with Max Cady? Did he kill his wife and unborn child? Is he the killer? Or is he an innocent man? They want you to think maybe he's innocent and been done wrong by the justice system, but in the opening of the show, it's him on the phone convincing a woman to blow her brains out so that he can get out of prison. Clearly, he's a bad guy. So whether or not he killed his wife is irrelevant from the get-go. It doesn't matter if he committed that crime because he's a violent, dangerous man capable of murdering, and he does plenty of it by the end. By the time we get to the reveal of whether Max actually killed his wife, it just doesn't matter anymore. The showrunner said they wanted it to go back and forth where audiences feel sympathy for Cady, but it doesn't work that way. Once you've established this man is a dangerous psychopath that can chameleon into people's lives and manipulate them into doing heinous things, there is no more sympathy. He's evil. He could be interesting, but he's evil, and that's not sympathetic. And further than that, Max has multiple children, okay? Little spoiler here. Different baby mamas, but multiple kids. He treats them all like tools to be manipulated. He doesn't actually care about any of them. They make that extremely clear. And at the end, there's a revelation that he has another child he thought was dead who he himself just killed recently. He reacts to this news by breaking down and sobbing, but none of that is believable because this man doesn't care about his family or his children or his dead wife. The writers want these revelations and plot twists to stick, but most of them are devoid of any meaning because you spent so much time zigzagging on who these characters actually are that by the end, they're unreliable nobodies. They're all narcissistic psychopaths that are unreal and unrelatable, and for that, this show is banished to the Phantom Zone. You know, we got 2 horror shows this summer. Widow's Bay wrapped a month ago, and I still catch myself wondering if there are any new episodes yet. But no, that's over. Cape Fear has now wrapped, and my one thought is, oh no, I'll need to find something else to fill the silence of playing video games. What a shame. Cape Fear comes bundled with an Apple TV subscription. The cinematography holds up frame to frame, I'll give it that. The Jeff Russo score weaves Bernard Herrmann's 1962 theme through some of the best classic horror scoring of television this year. I will give it that credit too. The music slaps on this show. The acting from Javier Bardem, Patrick Wilson, and Amy Adams is well done. Unfortunately, all of those nuggets of good are set against a script that abandons logic in episode 1 and spends the next 9 weeks treating hours of your life as filler. For that, this show is a 3 out of 10, and you can skip it. Now, if this saved you 10 hours, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not yet subscribed. We're working through a lot more seasons of television this year, and we don't want you to miss any of the reviews. Until next time, create, innovate, inspire, and cancel your Disney Plus subscription. Bye-bye.